Alrighty, my name is Renegade Operative. I will be keeping this intro short. I will be keeping it sweet. You already know the title. Some of your criticism for Dead Space 1 Remake sucks ass. Why does it suck ass? Why are you wondering this? Let's get into the videos and let's see if we agree or disagree with the dissent that's been going on for Dead Space Remake. Hopefully you enjoy my opinion from there and hopefully it all makes sense to you.
So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm really losing hope in the Dead Space remake, and it's for a plethora of reasons, not just the visuals. The Dead Space remake is another one of those recent games that really did not need a remake. I mean, look at this gameplay right here. It's not like you had tank controls or really poor graphics that might turn off a modern audience. I mean, though it came out in 2008, it's still completely playable, and the visuals really still hold up, especially if you're playing on max settings on a modern PC.
That's quite funny that he brings up PC. When you look at the consoles, the original release, and you realize that you had to go to a door and wait for it to open like about 10-20 seconds in the original Dead Space, so he has to bring up the PC version. But yes, Dead Space 1 plays great. There's no denying it. The mold from Dead Space 1 is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was a game that revolutionized third-person aiming forever, over the shoulder, all that bit. So you understand that much. At the same time, I don't like the contrarian view of a game that does or doesn't deserve a remake, because the idea of a remake is to rebuild from the ground up and make it significantly better than the original iteration. Sometimes there were technical limitations, and developers even admitted that in the PS3 era. Even Naughty Dog admitted that with The Last of Us Part 1, where there were certain things on the PS3 they couldn't do that was fully realized in later versions. That being said, I don't think this guy really understands that you're not just modernizing a remake graphically or gameplay wise. Sometimes you could be adding in much more, like story lore, adding in accessibility, adding in other features that couldn't be done or wasn't present in the original game. There's even small incremental features like control schemes being changed to fit the modern times as well, like Shadow of the Colossus not having triangle as a fucking jump button. Then we move on to Dead Space Remake. Not only does it look better, who knows, it could play better, who knows. And then there's additions on top of that as well, like the idea that there's voice acting, which Isaac Clarke was a mute. He did not talk, he did not say a fucking word. Therefore, there was no interactions with him in the previously established characters, so you don't have that extra layer of humanization with him. And maybe you'll get it in this remake, along with the fact that there's better zero-G, where you can fly around and hover, as opposed to jumping from point to point like you're the Moon Man and getting completely squashed by enemies in the middle of this animation. He also failed to mention there is a choice option in this game. So in Dead Space Remake, you could choose to have your air tanks all stationed out, but if you choose to turn off the power, then you can't see anything in the environment. You won't be losing oxygen in the process, yet you can't see. And then there's an option where it's like, you could choose to decompress the area where your air will deplete, but you will be able to see everything in the environment. And it adds to that sort of risky reward challenge of survival horror that it was always known for, giving you more ideals to mess around in the environment and go through from there. And I think that will be a wise choice to not only spice up the gameplay, but add more variety to the mix. It's not just about graphics, it's not just about gameplay all the time. Of course, that is key and paramount to modernization, but there's also a lot more things going on under the hood. And they also said they're planning to add in the idea that there's going to be lore from Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 all posted in this game. If they pull that off, then it's equivalent to how Resident Evil 1 Remake did it, where they added in lore from Code Veronica. I wouldn't say it's completely useless in your mind just because you think so.
I gotta say, Dead Space was one of my favorite horror games of all time, and that's back when I played it just about a year ago. Yet studios, completely bereft of original ideas, seem intent on remaking it and other classic survival horror games. Now,
Well, I mean, you got to blame Capcom there, right? I mean, in a studio where game development is prevalent on imitating ideas, I mean, it's only natural that Capcom had Resident Evil 2 Remake be a smashing hit, a smashing success, and other devs are going to want that pie. They're going to want that money because in the game industry, when you make AAA games that cost a lot of money, you're going to want to return that cost. Therefore, what's popular right now is horror remakes. Because of RE2 being such a smashing success, they are making remakes out the wazoo. And you can say, yeah, that's bereft of any sort of creativity, but at the same time, it's bringing back key franchises you love, like Dead Space. So maybe you really shouldn't shit on the idea, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think Dead Space would be alive today. And I don't think they should do the unintelligent thing and just jump into a Dead Space 4 remake, because that's going to require more lore and more setup before we get there. Once again, Visceral Games is dead now. It's all on EA Motive to succeed or fail. Let's see if they could take baby steps before doing the big projects. That's what I want to see. I just think the reason why they remade Dead Space 1 is a test bed to see what they could do later, for better or worse.
I was originally pretty optimistic about this remake. I mean, just look at this video I made a couple months ago. And I'm super psyched for
the fuck is that, VR chat?
It's gonna be sick. You know? Oh, you sweet summer child. After seeing the direction this game is going, I feel like I pretty much lost all hope that EA could do something good. So, starting with the visuals, as you can see in the intro, they've changed the models for the characters drastically, and not in a good way. Can someone tell me why every game nowadays is completely allergic to attractive women?
So he's one of those, like, super, I would assume, sexualize all women people and whatnot. Otherwise, the game is bad if they don't do that, which is always something that's super weird. If you don't like the realism style, then I can't imagine what it's like when you wake up and look in the mirror. That's just... I'm sorry, that was mean. But here's the thing, okay? Everything has a differing art style. It's funny that he put Claire when people tried to say on Twitter that Claire is also ugly, but everything has a differing art style. Even Resident Evil bases itself on westernization, so the characters look more like real people than anything, as opposed to games like Dead or Alive, where there's a clear like Japanese influence in how they want girls to look and everything like that. So again, everything doesn't need to be in a way sexualized for a game to be extremely great. There can be a character that looks realistic and they could be a great character. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to get some Rule 34 and you want to see all these characters naked, because I thought it was absolutely bewildering to me that people wanted Ratchet and Clank sexualized and Rivet sexualized and all that stuff, just go watch some porn, man. It's not really that hard to just go in there one time and just get it over with and say, hey, I had a great time with this game and experience, even though I'm just not really feeling the fact that this is not super sexy, and that's cool. But in my honest opinion, I don't play these games for sexualization. I could just go outside and touch some grass and touch a woman, and that'd be totally fine. I would have all my fantasies knocked out there. You want to get into cosplay, baby? There you go. I don't understand this problem of people having this surface level criticism when they say games are bad because not hot. Just play the game and enjoy it, and if you don't like it, fucking uninstall it and move on with your day. It's not really that hard. And the best thing about this is, like, I just care for the characterization, and I will play as anyone, male, female, alien, piece of bread, whatever. I don't discriminate. I don't have these ideals. I just want to see if I can relate to this character, if this character is remotely cool, and if they are awesome, and if I want to go back and play and experience their story a second time. That's what I play games for. I don't play games for this, you know, a tit gotta be hanging out, otherwise it's a bad game. That's shallow as fuck. and I wish people would. I wish more people would start to understand that. Like, if you like a hot character, that's cool. But don't say game is bad without any critical merit as to why the game is bad just because a character looks realistic.
It also makes no
Get that weed bullshit off the screen. He kept that there for a minute. Get that bullshit off of there.
sense. Why did they feel the need to age Nicole by 30 years? There are a lot of people out there saying that Nicole was 39 in the original game, and that's why she looks this way. But okay.
This I can agree with to an extent, even though it's quite funny because Nicole only shows up like what, 3 times in the original game, so you will not even be seeing her that much at all. You won't be seeing Nicole a lot, which is why it's weird that people are so hung up on this. Like, explain that you won't be seeing this character. Like, if this was Dead Space 2, I could totally see that. You won't be seeing her. But I don't think that they did it with a valid reason. I think The Last of Us Part 1, it made sense to age up Tess to fit her age and her stress and her PTSD, for example. So I didn't really have an issue with them doing that as opposed to doing this. Although on surface level, it is a controversy. It's not the biggest thing in the world. I just care how Nicole is portrayed and that little jump scare at the end. Unless you like monster women where they're completely battered, scarred up, and they look like a piece of cheese when she jump scares Isaac, I don't know if we can dwell on this attraction point for far too long considering the end of the game.
Okay, sure. Let's say she's 39. Let's take a look at a 39-year-old woman. This is Jennifer Aniston in the 2008 movie Marley and Me. Now, Jennifer Aniston was born in 1969.
Oh God, he's really going into detail. It's like, I must come.
I
I must come.
So let's do some quick maths here.
I must come. He got the calculator out. I must come. All right, I think we kind of get where this guy is coming from with this. He really wants Nicole smashed. Even though it's a digital character, it's not real. It's not real. So we can move on to this next video, which is this could ruin the Dead Space remake. Let's see what this guy has to say.
Rather than the game forcing it down your throat, you could literally just turn away and not see.
Hold on, let's go back a little bit.
Making it feel like up and breaks the glass. Dead bodies necromorphs up to this point, but not this thing. So out of curiosity on your first playthrough, you see what it does to the dead body, and to your surprise, Mr. Flaps over here is what is creating the necromorphs.
Did he call that thing fuck flaps? I did just hear that right. He called that thing fuck flaps. That is amazing.
Dead bodies scattered around. In fact, it creates a beefed up necromorph. The newly formed necromorph jumps up and breaks the glass, charging at you. This whole time you've been in control of Isaac too, making it feel like you are the one seeing this dynamically, rather than the game forcing it down your throat. You could literally just turn away and not see the scene at all if you wanted to. It makes repeat playthroughs great too, because it doesn't waste your time. Now, in the remake, they have completely overhauled this scene in a bad way. They turned it into this stupid dragged out cutscene that just completely halts the game to show you what the flap does to dead bodies. It feels like the developers think we're stupid or something and will miss the scene naturally.
It's also possible to miss that transformation in the original. You could walk into the morgue and just be like, oh, well, I'm going to look at what's over there.
I mean, we are stupid, but like, we aren't that stupid, fellas. Come on, we're not all Dark Side Phil.
Oh, come on, you know what?
Oh God, that guy. All right, so let's address what he said. He's saying that it's quite weird that they decided to change the infector scene, and you have varieties of options that you could do while watching that. In particular, you could walk away, you could directly look at it, etc. And then in the remake, they just show you this as a cutscene, and the developers are saying, hey, the players could miss this. We don't want them to miss this transformation. It's a cutscene. Let's continue on what he says from there, and I'll give my overall verdict on that.
This is fucking mad annoying. I can tell the whole game's gonna be like this too.
The scene plays out in the morgue again and has Isaac trying to take a rig off the captain's dead body, and in this really long part where he's just walking up to the dead body. Is this needed? He's ambushed by the specimen, which injects itself into the dead body, knocking Isaac to the ground. The body is dropped on him as it slowly transforms into a necromorph. It has to slowly get up and scream as well, instead of, I don't know, killing Isaac there and then. It gives Isaac time to grab a fire extinguisher with kinesis to stun the necromorph. All of this happens in a cutscene with absolutely zero input from the player, and it lasts 44 seconds. Now, I know that doesn't seem long, but trust me, in the moment, it'll drag, especially on repeat playthroughs.
That's the issue. That's the part I had an issue with, which is why I wanted to hear him more clearly elaborate his second point. If you're talking about how great this effector scene is in the original, you do know that you have to see it countless times on repeat playthroughs, right? Right? Am I right, people? You know, you could choose to turn around and look at a wall, that's fine, but the same thing plays out where the big fuck flaps gets on the body, the corpse, he injects it, and then the necromorph breaks through the glass. In the remake, they made this into a cutscene, and if I don't want to see it on repeat playthroughs, I would skip the cutscene. That's what I would do. I would press skip and it would be over. But in a gameplay space where that has to occur in order for that to happen, you have to sit there each and every single time and see the animation play out. Yeah, and they confirmed New Game Plus as well, which tells me you can skip that scene. I don't see the big deal with that. Moving on to the next one as we dismantle that point. I'm sorry to do this to you guys. I really am. But some of your criticisms suck. Let's continue.
Just looks like he's skating across the ground.
So okay, that's funny. He's mocking the animation. That's hilarious to me.
When the full game drops, because are they all just gonna like be skating on the ground like that, and it just looks so odd? Also, and another thing about this sequence is once you gun the necromorph down, I feel like Isaac should just be talking.
I agree. That he's kind of right. That looks a little weird to me, but that's not the point that I have an issue with.
Isaac should just be talking more in this situation. Like, I feel like he should be commenting about stuff that's going on around him and how he literally just saw a monster he's never seen before maul a person to death and come after him.
Didn't the developers say that Isaac will only talk when prompted? Because there was a wide variety of people for RE2 that complained about Claire or Leon saying what the fuck to a situation, so they decided to cuff him. Am I the only one that listened to these interviews? Because I feel like I did. I feel like I'm the only one that did. They told us that they are cuffing him to give us more immersion in the background and not have the character speak. And I know I wanted to make a video on this about how much is too much talking during gameplay, because I saw it on High on Life and I was like, this is the worst writing I've ever heard, or the worst dialogue I've ever heard in my entire life of playing video games, and I'm dead serious. You can like High on Life, but when I heard that dialogue, I was like, you're better off playing this game on mute. If it was like that, I would not like Isaac to talk at all during gameplay. I don't think it's a deal breaker if he talks in cutscenes. That's where I want the exposition. That's where I want everything to harness itself when he's interacting with these people. If he doesn't talk in gameplay, it's not a big deal. Moving on to the next one. EA hasn't changed. Dead Space Remake, not what we think. Let's continue.
EA Games is back in the news.
I turn this guy up. His mic is low.
But the biggest one is definitely their remake of Dead Space. Now, EA is a very complicated beast. They did teach me one of life's greatest lessons, which is to challenge everything. However, they also have been going against their slogan from before. It's in the game. A lot of their features are not really in the game anymore. And that's something we wanted to talk about here is, has EA changed? And I don't mean have they changed to be worse, have they changed to be more focused on microtransactions and all that? We know they have, but are they turning a corner where they now value single player games again? Fallen Order and now this, what is the common denominator? And I've heard a lot of people say they think EA has changed. I personally don't really agree.
That, like, okay, I'm gonna be brutally honest. That sounds like he's a bit. It's okay to be skeptical, but he is hung up in the past, and you have to give due diligence where it's due, right? Because when Jedi Fallen Order came out, they were saying no micros, and I was one of these people too. I was one of them that said EA's last chance with Star Wars was Jedi Fallen Order, because I thought they dropped the ball completely on Star Wars Battlefront 2. So then when they came out with that game and they said there's not going to be any micros, there's not going to be anything taken away from the experience, we're going to let Respawn do their thing, it came out, and lo and behold, they kept their promise. With that other game that came out, it was from Joseph Fares or whatever his name is, the fuck the Oscars guy, fuck you. I'm telling you, it's all bullshit. I remember he got on stage and he was sort of talking in interviews, and he said his game A Way Out was not going to have any micros, EA wasn't going to fuck him over. Lo and behold, that game came out, and he was right. I think the issue is whenever EA decides to flex their publisher cock and try to hammer down on the creators with micros and stuff like that, that's when it's bad. But when they leave them alone and they don't do that, and they make that choice to say, we're not going to dabble, we know our reputation around here, make your game, it turns out to be fine. I don't have a problem with them deciding to say, we're not going to try to fuck this up. And if it turns out that they didn't, there's nothing to complain about. There's nothing to latch on to unless the action actually occurs and we see something egregious. This is just, what is that word that I'm looking for? Oh my God. I guess, yeah, I guess it would be fear-mongering. Because again, unless they do the deed, and we know they have, unless they actively put in micros, we can't say there's going to be micros in Dead Space Remake until we actually see it happen. And if there's not micros, I'm not going to be shaking my fucking fist saying, oh God, that damn EA, they put micros in a game that wasn't Dead Space. Why am I upset? Why am I complaining? Why would I do that? There's no need. Like, I know we want to pick up the pitchforks where it's due, but actually point them where it matters. You know? I don't even think I need to listen to the rest, because it's like a 22-minute video, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be droning on the same company principles and the past and the present and the future and whatnot. I'm focused on the present right now. So I'm waiting until Dead Space comes out. The only weird scenario that we have is the fact that console players have console tax, because Dead Space Remake right now on Steam is like $60, whereas on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X is $70. That's just $10 extra. I don't really care about the $70 debates. If you do, hey, go ahead. In my opinion, it's already set in stone. It's been set in stone for the past 3 years. It's just, that's the only weird thing, is that they didn't tax the PC dues, but PC dues are getting taxed by 70 anyway if we count COD and another franchise entirely. So it's like, it's not even a big deal in the long run. Let's move on to the next one. This is by far probably the worst one, because it has like 1,000 dislikes down here. Let me add another one. I'm sorry, buddy. Let me add another one. I'm gonna let you do your little point. And his title is very all over the place. Somebody wanted a Dead Space remake if we're being pedantic, but it's not a very catchy title, is it? No, it is not. I'm sorry, I've answered your question.
Dead Space is back? Dead Space is back? Dead Space is finally back! One of my favourite game series is coming back after an 8-year wait. We're finally getting more Isaac Clarke. Yes! Long have I waited. Yes! Dead Space 4 on next-gen consoles. It's a remake. Oh, fuck off, EA. EA killed the franchise with microtransaction bullshit in Dead Space 3, a sequel rushed to release without half the heart of the first two games, and then they screwed over Visceral Games, the team that made these titles any good in the first place, and then, instead of giving us a brand spanking new game, after all this time, they've decided, you'll pay to play the first game again, won't you?
Alright, here's the thing. I agree with people being upset that Visceral's gone, but why would I want them to jump into Dead Space 4 knowing that's gonna... Do you know how ambitious Dead Space 4 was? Where you could go on different planets and fight necromorphs? Like, it was gonna be a planet-wide infection ordeal. Do you think that this Motive team can handle all that? I think for Dead Space 4, look, I need all hands on deck. All right, if you're gonna do this planet-wide infection scenario, you kind of need more time. You just can't jump into that. You gotta learn what worked, what didn't, and sometimes it means regressing back to the original blueprint that was started with Dead Space 1. I don't see the issue with them remaking this game if you have to do baby steps all over again. I do blame EA for killing Visceral. Yeah, you gotta, as my tablet goes off, my little baby tablet, you gotta walk before you can run. Again.
We don't need to put in any of that, what's it called? Effort. No, let's just reskin the original game.
I think that's gonna age poorly when he said they're not putting any effort into the remake. That's gonna age really fucking bad if this game is good. Only time will tell, we'll see.
And call it a day. Daddy made you your favourite, open wide. It's a risk to create an entirely new game that offers fresh experiences and pushes the...
Yeah, it is a risk to make Dead Space 4. What are you talking about?
Envelope.
What are you talking? A big sequel? One of the biggest sequels yet after the end of the third game? Yes, that's risky. It's easier to do a remake because you already know how the first game operated, and you could build on that. Does this guy not know logic? I can see why this one is the worst video. This video is mathematically terrible. Like the title says, your criticism sucks of Dead Space Remake. It really does.
As can be, but it's a safe bet to remake the original game that you already know.
Yes, it is. It's a safe bet. Because you could build on the foundation, and then when you have the foundation and you know, or at least this team, Motive, because they never worked on Dead Space before, once they finally know and learned and build after they finish this game, they're working on Iron Man right now. After those mechanics are set in stone, then they could do the impossible. And the impossible is not possible if you imagine it. It's really not.
Well received. You've starved the fans for so many years that they will just be grateful for the first bit of Dead Space that comes their way. Well, it's better than...
I know I am.
I guess.
I am.
You know why this remake is unnecessary? Because to create this video, I booted up my PS3 and game recorded Dead Space 1 and 2, and guess what? I still had a blast. These games still run smoothly, and they're still incredibly accessible to a modern audience. There's nothing about them that feels outdated or unplayable. There's no room to improve upon them. They came out a long time ago, and there's no need to alter them.
You know what's outdated? Isaac's melee in the first one, because it was pretty bad. Just that one little punch and that weak stomp that barely did anything at times, and I would just get slaughtered if I'm surrounded by necromorphs. They can enhance that. It seems they're doing that with the double stomp from Dead Space 2. All these people say there's no enhancements. Each time they fucking bring up the fact that, oh, these remakes don't need to exist, but I keep pointing out enhancements that benefit the game. What the fuck? And plus, we can have better characterization with Isaac. How is that a bad thing? That's a good thing, and it should be praised and held and put on a standard, unless we don't get like too much of it. I know that dude was complaining, oh, Isaac's not gonna talk during gameplay, but again, I don't mind him being cuffed if most of his reactions are gonna be like, what the fuck, after seeing the 30th Necromorph. I would prefer not to have that.
These experiences for all the ups and downs as they were in 2008 and 2011 respectively, then go to your local CEX, hold your nose, and pick some copies. They'll probably be, what, a couple of quid? It's not that I think this remake is going to play badly. To the contrary, I think it will probably be a slightly tweaked version of the original game with improved graphics. I just find it so calculated on the part of EA. So soulless and designed to milk money out of the original concept. Because if EA really cared about Dead Space, they wouldn't have shut down Visceral in the first place.
God damn it, I trusted you! Fuck!
This one I agree with. If they cared about the franchise, they wouldn't have killed the developer. But look, I know it sucks to lose Visceral, but now they're trying. And you know, people can try and bring stuff back. They can do their best. They can try. And we just hope for the best at that point. It's better than being dead. Remember when Silent Hill was dead for the longest time and everyone decided to make Silent Hill come into fruition? Shut the fuck up, tablet. Everyone decided to make Silent Hill come into fruition and say, we want Silent Hill to return, or we don't want Silent Hill to return. And lo and behold, when people see there's an investment and that there's creativity or money to be had, despite people saying the contrary, they will give people what they want, for better or worse.
Fuck you! And fuck your marker!
They would be greenlighting a fresh title in a universe that didn't need rebooting. I know you're thinking of putting in the comments.
There's that contrarian bullshit again, where people are like, oh, this doesn't need a remake. Shut up.
You know.
I just dislike that logic so much. I'm sorry. If it feels better in any significant fashion, whether small or big, as my cat just rubs her nose against my PS5 plates, then I will play the game. And as a fan, and if it appeals to me, then it is what it is. It feels better, it plays better, better story, better content. As my cat still shakes that bell. I'm sorry, I'm getting so distracted. It's fucking funny. It's fucking funny is what I'm saying.
Know what this game is going to be. It might not be a...
He talks about pedantic, but that's pretty much the whole video here. There's Zero G, which...
know whether or not there's going
to feel better.
Levels and weapons that were never in the original game. It's going to offer you something new.
What? Alright, I'm done. This motherfucker said... He's complaining about the blurbs of them putting in new areas, levels, and new content, which is ideal these days for remakes, as the general consensus says. What? I think I'm done. I don't think I think my dislike is warranted, and there's probably a lot of ire in the comment section that shares my same ideals. I don't need to say anything further. I just need to say, give the game a chance, and your criticism sucks for Dead Space Remake. From what I've heard today, I have not been convinced by anything except for small key points here or there. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and how do you feel about this game, and how do you feel about some of the commenters and what they've been saying. I think it's so much easier, once again, to conform to the negative algorithm and say something is trash just to get some attention and get some exposure and get some likes. But when you really think outside the box, all this stuff is easily dismantled. I will see you guys next time. Later.